Hi, I'm Bob Trask. This is our weekly reset. Today we're going to talk about nature, your nature, my nature, and how that nature, which is the basic platform of life, has been ignored by us, and how by paying attention to it, we can change our lives. John Muir said, thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home. Is going home, and that wilderness is a necessity. It's nice going to the wilds, but is it really a necessity? Well, did you ever notice how nature heals itself? So today we're going to talk about that healing. And when I say healing, I'm not talking about just you've got a sore thumb or some sort of a dreadful disease and you want to heal it. I'm talking about the overall beingness of you and me, the overall beingness. See, in this eternal universe, and when I say eternal universe, I mean it goes on forever. There is no end. I don't know if scientists quite get that yet, but if you could get a rocket ship that would take you out through space and it would go as fast as the speed of light, there would be almost no aging because time stands still. And so you would be flying along forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And would you come to the end of the universe? There is no end of the universe. There is no end of time. There is no end of space. There is no end and there is no beginning. It goes on forever. And that constant of forever is nature. And nature is intelligent. And we know it's intelligent because we can look around us and see what it does, how it balances things, how it brings everything into harmony with itself. The trees, the forest, the wind, the flowers, the meadows, the birds, the rabbits, the deer, the fish in the sea, the great blue whales, all of that is all harmonizing together. And here's all this going on. Here's all of this incredible nature going on. And here's us over here at the side looking at it, contemplating it intellectually. We were born with brains. Whew. I could talk so long about brains. The most probably, at least as far as I know, and as far as I think scientists know, the most complex, intricate, and magical, mysterious, miraculous organ in all of the universes, the human brain. Whew, my gosh. Now we might find that there's another organ that's got even a better programming system than our brains. But boy, this is incredible. But the brain is not who we are. And the brain creates the mind, and the mind's not who we are. Who we are is nature. We're not on the side looking at it. We are nature. We are in it. It is us. And boy, I've forgotten that sometimes. I've let that just slide by me. When I was a professional singer and I lived in San Francisco and I was working constantly on my charts and on my singing and on my appearances and getting jobs and going to voice lessons. And I was just busy, busy, busy. And I had grown up very much in the wilderness and in nature. And even when I lived in the housing projects, there were canyons and I could go down into those canyons and get lost, and there was no way to build anything down there. They were just wild canyons, and nobody went down there because there was all kinds of rumors about stuff that happened to boogeymen down there and and wild animals down there and stories of cougars and baloney. But I just practically lived in those canyons. And when I was in New Mexico as a boy out on the plains, oh, oh my gosh, the red earth and the yellow earth blending together, and the rim rocks in the wild open country. And and I remember one day we were going out to the mine. We had a mining a mining lease on an Indian reservation, and Grandpa was driving, and we were going out to the mine, and it had rained that morning, and the clouds were low, and it was warm, and there was a soft wind blowing, and we came along to a herd of wild horses, and amidst those wild horses standing off to the side was a big bobcat. And with that lowering sky and the sun streaming down in shafts through that sky, and those wild horses on the plains, on that fresh rained plain with the smell so rich of sage and earth. Oh gosh, I'll just never forget that sight. And as I said, when I was in San Francisco, and I had forgotten who I was, because I was just so caught up in being a famous singer and doing my little civilized thing in the human society, that I'd forgotten who I was. I'd forgotten that. I'd forgotten the canyons in the Linda Vista Housing Project. I've forgotten the plains in New Mexico. I was busy. I was serious about what I was doing. And a friend of mine, a German guy who worked as a waiter at the Fairmont Hotel, Horst Eltner was his name. I never will forget him. He said, "Come with me. We're going to go to Muir Woods." And I said, "What's Muir Woods?" He said, "It's a place you need to go. Come on, let's go." So I didn't. All right, okay, I'll go. I didn't want to go, but I went. And we drove up to Muir Woods, and he pulled into the parking lot, and there was this kind of forest in front of us. And he got out of the car and he said, "I'm going to be gone for a couple of hours. I'm going to go do my thing. You do your thing, and I'll see you back here in a couple of hours." I said, "Cool." So he went off into the woods and he was gone. And I walked through the opening kind of area and came to an area where there was a little creek running, a little stream running. And I knelt down at the creek because I'm a fisherman and I love fish. And I had a sandwich and was breaking off little tiny crumbs of bread from my sandwich, sprinkling them in the creek. And little fish were coming up, probably little trout were coming up and eating those little crumbs of bread. And I looked up from the creek and I looked across this small meadow. And when I say small, less than the length of a football field. And on the other side, there was a hill going up and there were trees. And I know, and I saw those trees, and I saw them. I didn't look at them. I saw them. And they went inside of me. And they said, sounds silly for me to say this, but please believe me, it's true. They said to me, "Where have you been?" Now, that was my heart or my soul talking in oneness with the trees. "Where have you been?" And I almost cried, but I was filled with a joy that I had forgotten. Living in the wilds, I had forgotten that was me, that was a part of me, that had just escaped my consciousness. And the 2 hours went by and I never moved from there. I knelt there and I looked at the trees, and I looked at the water in the stream and the little tiny fish, and I looked at the different colored pebbles on the bottom of the stream, and I looked at the grasses between me and the forest, and I looked at the wildlife and at the birds, and I didn't look at them, I felt them. They were inside of me. It was like watching a great movie, but you're not watching it, it's inside of you. It was inside of me. Oh my God. I just forgotten. I had just forgotten. Now for the next few minutes, please join me as we learn something about nature that could save our lives. Could save our lives. That is, if we can just see ourselves, as I did that day, as vital parts of nature, and recognize that nature always heals itself. Our bodies are made of nature. 102 minerals from the earth, from the planets, from the meteors, from all over everywhere. 102 of those minerals hold us together physically. That's our body. These sacred natural bodies, however, are too often relegated to lifestyles that don't fit with who we really are. And the result then is dis-ease, disharmony, unbalance, dis-ease that we call disease. And sometimes disease is not just from erroneous thinking or living. Even the trees in the forest succumb to diseases and insects sometimes, but those are so minor and so seldom. Most people heal, and nature mostly also heals. But healing in nature, as nature, is not only physical, it's mental, emotional, spiritual, it's the whole system. Healing is a natural part of evolution. And as nature succeeds in healing itself again and again and again, shouldn't we, as nature, be healed again and again too? But how can we unless we surrender to the nature of who we are? Can we be one with Mother Nature and with its forests and seas? Can we? We seek to heal ourselves in a much different way than Mother Nature does. That vast intelligence heals itself by, number one, accepting what is, accepting what is. Lightning comes down, whack, hits this tree and rips a big chunk of wood out, and it spins off into the forest, and it spirals down the trunk of the tree, and it leaves scars, deep scars in the tree. And does the tree go, oh no, oh my God, I just hit by lightning, call an ambulance. Oh, you've got to take. No, the nature is already in it. It's already in it. The nature of lightning is lightning. The nature of the tree is the tree, and they are in harmony. And so with the tree, what does the tree do? It accepts. I'm talking in like you will think I'm talking like it's got a brain. It doesn't have a brain, but it does not have the ability to resist. It does not have the ability to reject. So it accepts by nature. It accepts what's happened right now. This is my new reality. This is my new reality. I've got a limb missing. I've got some big chunks knocked out of me. And this is my reality. This is who I am now. Can we do that? Can we not fight back, but accept totally what's going on? And then once we accept and once nature accepts, then it absorbs the change. It absorbs the change. Can I absorb the change? A guy comes back from war and he's got a leg blown off and and now he has to learn to walk with a prosthetic leg. How don't you think, and don't I think, that that healing process is hugely improved by his ability to totally, completely, 100% accept and not be in resistance or anger or resentment whatsoever or regret whatsoever, but to totally say, this is now who I am. This is now who I am. And then absorb that change and become it. That's what the tree does. Doesn't resist, becomes one with the new situation, and then it adapts to it. That's what this wonderful veteran's doing, going through all of his PT and learning to walk with this prosthetic leg. He adapts to it. And then the tree reorganizes itself accordingly. So this vet reorganizes himself in his life accordingly. He doesn't reorganize himself in his life out of resentment and say, God, now I have to, why me, Lord? I mean, why? That's not what he's doing. He's reorganizing his life according to what's happening with him. And while nature's adapting, listen, it's also maintaining its essential structure and that structure's function. So while that vet is adapting and reorganizing and absorbing, he or she is also maintaining their essential structure and that structure's function. In other words, they're still who they came here to be. Nothing's missing. Nothing's changed. Now they may have improved, but they haven't changed. They haven't gotten rid of anything. So when we see a tree that's been hit by lightning, adapting and then reorganizing itself, is it still a tree and still doing what trees do? Yeah, absolutely. So we might have an accident from which it seems like we're never going to recover. And that's a part of nature, like the lightning stricken tree. Nature has accidents too. And they may seem destroyed, but after that, afterward, there's this great tragedy in nature and things we say, well, God, everything's going to just be barren now. The flood came in and wiped out this forest, or an earthquake or a hurricane. Oh my God. But nature is forever. Nature is not temporary. Nature is forever, 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 forever. I talked about the distance to the end of the universe, which there is no end. That's time, that's space, and that's nature, and it's forever. And it's right here, right now, and it's forever. Please hear that. Nature is not temporary, it's forever. And whatever we think of as devastation is very soon followed by a blessed natural process science called succession. Succession in nature is species colonization and establishing themselves anew. Species colonizing and establishing themselves anew. And some of the species are so new, they're just like brand new. And because they're new and nature, I'm going to say realizes, of course, there's no realization because it's just one with what is. It always knows, it's always present as the great mind of all. It knows that this thing could happen again. So what it colonizes with sometimes is species that didn't exist before. Does that mirror our own bodies? Do we bring in brand new things that our body has never seen before to heal us? Yeah, of course. If we got chicken pox when we were kids, and we were covered with these pox and we're really sick, and some kids are dying and some kids are losing their eyesight or their hearing or whatever. It's just really a devastating disease. And we're pretty sick. But then our bodies create antibodies against chickenpox, or we're injected with antibodies. And those antibodies against chickenpox mean that we'll never get chickenpox again, because now we have this new thing in our system. It's a new thing. And this new thing says, you're okay. You don't have to do this again. The area of Chernobyl. And you remember that was the big nuclear meltdown, and that the Russians had to totally abandon that whole area because it was highly radioactive. Now that whole area is a thriving wildlife refuge with brand new species. And these new species, like our antibodies, survive despite high radiation levels. Nature healing itself, us healing ourselves as nature. In Washington State, the Elwha and Glines Canyon dams had been in place for more than 100 years, and they stopped the salmon migration. Boy, oh boy, there was on the Elwha River, there were some huge king salmon that used to run up that river. So, but it was blocked off, and that stopped the salmon migration. And rivers have a natural thing that they do when they flow. They bring silt down and they form the banks, and they have certain sediments that are really important to life forms and to the form of the river and to its presence in the jungle or in the forest, its presence for the trees and the shrubs and the grasses and weeds and all of the other animals and botany things that live there. And well, they built the dam that stopped that. That was it. Those sediments and that stuff, they couldn't get down. That was 100 years ago. In 2012, which now it's 112 years later, the dams were removed. Then the river reformed itself. And after that 112 years, the salmon came back. How did that happen? You know, the salmon have to leave the river and go to sea and spend 3 to 5 years in the ocean and then come back and go up that river and spawn. And that's the miracle in itself. How the heck they find that river after swimming all over the great ocean and then coming back and they go back to that same exact river and go back up that river and its tributaries back to the same stream where they were spawned and they lay their eggs and they get fertilized and new salmon come. Man, that's just amazing. But the salmon came back. And that's proof that despite the odds, nature always heals. And you are nature, and you always heal. If you're one with nature. Because just like in rivers, we build dams inside of ourselves. And that stops the flow of those things that are powerful nutrients and forces that keep us well and keep us strong so that we can do our life's work here. Recent research shows that when we associate with nature, our physical, mental, and emotional health improves. Hear this. In 2005, back in 2005, 20 years ago, there were 60 intense studies on nature and health and how they work together. 60 studies. You know what? Now there are over 1,000. That's how important it is. That's how scientists and medical authorities have recognized the power of nature in our health. Because we're nature's natural beings, aren't we? Aren't we? No different than a whale or a wolf or an eagle. They're all nature. So if I'm not well, what much must I do for nature to heal me? If my life isn't balanced, what must I do for nature to heal me? The answer is this: we must stop avoiding our natures and stop being busy little soldiers marching around and not paying attention to what the most important issue is in our life, our foundational source of health and well-being, which is nature. Oh, I know you're busy. I'm busy too. Boy, believe me, I know. We have full lives. But just how important is my health? I mean, if I lose my health, what else have I got? How is important is yours? Is it worth learning and practicing a new way? And it's not a hard way. It's not hard. Stick with me. What do I have to do to be one with nature? Move to the country and grow corn and sweet potatoes and beets? Do I need to spend hours a week in a forest somewhere? Actually, I've got really good news for us busy people. What it takes for human beings to become healthy and have a strong body is just this: 2 hours a week in nature. That's what it takes to get a dose of nature high enough for us to feel and look like $1,000,000. That's it, friends. Precisely 120 minutes. No more plastic surgery on our faces, no more Botox, no more, just nature blessing us and breathing into us and bringing us back to fullness of who we are. 120 minutes a week, either all at one time or spread it out over 7 days. Doesn't make any difference. You can do 15 minutes here, an hour here. It doesn't matter as long as you get 120 minutes a week. A study of 20,000 people found that those who spent 2 hours a week in green spaces, even local parks or other natural environments, either 2 hours at once or a total of 2 hours in shorter visits over the week, they experienced renewed good health. These were scientific studies that were done. They experienced renewed good health, and it didn't matter about age, gender, occupation, family life, ethnicity, poverty, health, nor did it matter if people had chronic diseases or disabilities. The robust results were the same for every single person. But in the tests, it was found that those who didn't spend 120 minutes, that spent any time less than 120 minutes, they didn't get the benefits. In this way, it seems our bodies go home to be nurtured. Doesn't that make sense? That our bodies are just going back home, like me sitting or kneeling next to that stream in Muir Woods. I came back home, just came back home, and I got renewed. This 2-hour visit, incidentally, lowers blood pressure and lowers cortisol levels and calms our nervous systems and boosts our immune systems and increases our self-esteem. The Japanese call this visit to our natural home forest bathing. God, isn't that beautiful? Forest bathing. Let's go take a bath in the forest. Joe Dispenza, great scientist, great leader of this whole matter of new thought and new age, said, in clinical studies, we've seen that 2 hours of nature sounds a day, like birds or whatever, significantly reduce stress hormones up to 800% and activates 500 to 600 DNA segments for healing and repairing the body. Here's another wonderful truth. The air, just the air in a forest, elevates our body's natural killer cells and thereby destroys tumors and infections. Even essential oils from cedar trees bring about increases in health. And hospitals have seen now that patients with views of trees and views of nature need less pain medication, experience less stress, and they have shorter hospital stays. So they're now finding ways to integrate nature into their healing protocols. And here's another gain. Healing the nature not only heals our bodies, it also restores our mental balance, our ability to think clearly. We all want that. Albert Einstein knew this. He said, look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. So let's go into the woods and let's ask ourselves these 5 things in order to stay focused. What are the 5 things I'm seeing? Not looking at, seeing. What are the 5 things I'm seeing? Not just see the bark on that tree, but see all the striations and the colors and the hues of the bark on that tree. What are the 4 things I'm hearing? 5 things I'm seeing, 4 things I'm hearing. What are the 3 things I'm smelling? What are the 2 things I'm touching? What is the 1 thing I'm tasting? Henry David Thoreau said, forget not that earth delights to feel your bare feet and winds long to play with your hair. Thank you. Thank you, Henry David Thoreau. Let me say that again. The earth delights to feel your bare feet and winds long to play with your hair. And Langton Hughes said, let the rain kiss you. Let the rain let the rain beat upon your head with silver raindrops. Let the rain sing you a lullaby. Isn't that beautiful? That's being one with nature. Let the rain kiss you. Let it kiss you. Let it beat upon your head with silver liquid drops. And let it sing you a lullaby. Join me, my friend. You and I are in the forest. We're the ocean. We're the sky. We're the wind. We're the great eagle hanging on the winds. We're the great blue whale in the southern sea. We're the tiny flower. We are nature. Nature is us. Nature is us. Let's breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in. Let's go into the nature every week. Every week. Let's feel our bare feet on this earth and let the winds play with our hair. Let's be one with who we really are, which is nature. Thank you. Thank you for being with me. Would you please stop by bobtrask.com and leave a donation, please? I need enough money to be able to expand my work in the world, and you can help me there. Thank you. I so appreciate it. Now, I send you into this week with my love and with my wishes for all the good things that nature can bring you. And I'll see you next week.